What's up, world? I'm Cameron McKinney, and this is Pop Culture Spotlight, a podcast on the careers of Bo Burnham and Jerrod Carmichael. So let's start off with this. Why am I talking about these two individuals on the same podcast? Well, for one, they are friends and collaborators, but more than that, they have so much in common, the biggest for me being they are two of the best comedians of my generation. As stand-up comics, they could not be more different. Bo Burnham uses silly songs in the vein of Andy Samberg with The Lonely Island and Adam Sandler. For me, what stands out with Bo is that he makes good songs that are also straight up satires of popular genres of music, and there are many Bo Burnham songs that stand out, but the four I want to speak on this podcast are Art is Dead from his Comedy Central special, Words, 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 where he speaks on his complicated relationship with performing. The ending is what stands out to me, where he sings, I am an artist, but I'm just a kid, I'm just a kid, I'm just a kid, and maybe I'll grow out of it. Repeat stuff from his Netflix special, What, is Burnham's riff on modern love songs and how they are manipulative. The funniest line to me is, I love your eyes and their bluish, brownish, greenish color. Country song from his Netflix special, Make Happy, that points out that the people making the music are pandering to their audience to make them believe they are something they are not. Burnham in it sings, I write songs for the people who do, jobs in the towns that I never moved to. And finally, the closing number to Make Happy, Can't Handle This, where he's both satirizing Kanye West and being honest about his love-hate relationship with the audience, at the same time telling them, the truth is, my biggest problem's you. I want to please you, but I want to stay true to myself. I want to give you the night out that you deserve, but I want to say what I think and not care what you think about it. Two reasons why I love those songs. They are super funny, and I 100% agree with everything he's saying about our culture in them. One of the things I like most about Bo Burnham is he's someone who puts a lot of thought in what he does in the business of comedy in general. For example, here's what he told fellow comedian Pete Holmes on Holmes' podcast, You Made It Weird. Quote, I think any good comedian on some level should be trying to tear down this idea of culture and this idea of civilization, and it's really, 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 really hard when comedy and comedians are so in bed with celebrity. They are in bed with the exact problem. So how the bleep can you speak truth to power by ironically making fun of yourself on The Tonight Show, or ironically making fun of yourself in a commercial playing against your image to sell fill in whatever blank, end quote. Burnham is self-aware in a way most comedians are not. He is someone who knows he is chasing celebrity, but also that it isn't necessarily a good thing. That gets us to Jerrod Carmichael, whose early comedy was filled with funny yet controversial opinions. Carmichael, in his first stand-up special, Love at the Store, talked about the Trayvon Martin shooting, which director Spike Lee, who directed that special, did not appreciate. On his second HBO special, 8, Carmichael talks about how Jay-Z means more to him than Martin Luther King Jr., and on that same special, he said it's okay to cheat on your partner if you're the breadwinner. With him, it was like, even if you didn't always agree with what he was saying, you could enjoy it because of his talent and in the belief that he is most likely kidding. He was edgy in a way that is honest. He's intelligent and articulate, and you also get a sense in those first two specials he's trying to find his voice. I do think comedians deserve a grace period. I think it's okay to occasionally say things on stage that I don't always agree with. I first really became a big fan of Jerrod's after watching his NBC sitcom Carmichael, which dealt with hard topics like the Bill Cosby scandal and disagreeing politics between one's family members. And there's an episode where he mentors a transgender kid. The brilliance of the show is that it showed multiple sides of a topic. I just look at the current state of sitcoms and am sad. This was really the last great one. One thing that I loved about it is Carmichael as the lead did not make himself a great person. He was whatever that particular episode needed him to be. The show also had Tiffany Haddish and Lil Rel Howery before they broke out. out, a big similarity between Jerrod Carmichael and Bo Burnham is their tremendous amount of success at such a young age. Jerrod, before turning 30 years old, had an HBO special and an NBC sitcom, while Bo had 3 comedy specials, a short-lived sitcom of his own, Zach Stone Is Gonna Be Famous, and was directing other comedian stand-up specials, Carmichael's 8 and Chris Rock's Tambourine. Let's talk about the work that these two have done on screen in movies. Carmichael had a supporting role in both Neighbors films with Zac Efron and Seth Rogen, and Burnham had a role in The Big Sick with Kumail Nanjiani. Their most significant roles were in 2 of my favorite recent films, Burnham and Emerald Fennell's Promising Young Woman as Ryan, the love interest to Carey Mulligan's Cassie. The way the two of them sell the romantic comedy aspects of that movie is beyond great, and it's why the ending is so gut-wrenching. While Carmichael was in Yorgos Lanthimos' Poor Things as Harry with Emma Stone, and people seem mixed on his performance, I think the whole point of his character is to be more subtle than the other characters in the movie. He's a wise mentor character to Stones' Bella. It's interesting, though, that the 2 comedians in that movie, Jerrod Carmichael and Rami Youssef, are not playing the funniest characters in it. There's a part of me that thinks if these 2 were famous in the mid-2000s, they would have become comedic movie stars, that studios would have built movies for their comedic personas. But right now, the state of comedy in movies is not good, to say the least. This era of comedy is a blessing and a curse. The blessing is to see Burnham and Carmichael become famous in their own rights, being innovative and doing their own thing. The curse is we don't have comedic movies with them in leading roles. I can't watch the 18 Bo Burnham movies that have been made the way that I could with Adam Sandler or Will Ferrell. I mean, just look at Jerrod Carmichael's career. I mean, he's had an HBO special. He's had an NBC sitcom. He would have been way more famous if those things had happened to him back in 2008. But because they're happening in today's world, it's not treated as the big deal that it used to be. I think Jerrod Carmichael is a star. I just don't know if his sitcom is one of the things that turned him into one the way that it did for Jerry Seinfeld, Ray Romano, or Tim Allen. I also find it weird to think about how famous are these 2 actually, because in today's world, it's impossible to tell. I know Bo Burnham is a big deal. I know a lot of you watch his stand-up specials. I just don't know how famous he really is. Do adults over the age of 45 care about Bo Burnham? The same for Jerrod Carmichael. I just don't know how famous these 2 individuals are the way that I know that everyone knows who Adam Sandler is. I guess what I'm saying is it's now impossible to quantify how popular these 2 are. Are they just niche comedians? In the case of Bo Burnham, I do believe he is closer to being viewed as a major celebrity than Jerrod Carmichael. I think there are many people who don't know the name Jerrod Carmichael, but then I believe that there are people like me who really admire this guy's work and are loud about it. I will say this about them. I think they are both well known because of the quality of their work over the quantity of it, and that's a very good thing and a very rare thing when it comes to a celebrity or an artist or a stand-up comedian. I mean, usually it's about the volume of the thing. People feel overexposed. I have never felt that way about Bo Burnham or Jerrod Carmichael. I think they give you just the right amount of things to talk about that are interesting. They don't give you a stand-up special a year. They don't give you a movie a year. I mean, you see them, but you don't see them all of the time, and it makes it so that you appreciate their work more because there's just less of it. Burnham and Carmichael have also both directed movies. Bo wrote and directed the film 8th Grade, which is about an 8th grade girl dealing with social media, and that sounds like a simple premise, but it is profound coming from Burnham, who first became famous because of the internet. Carmichael's directorial debut, On the Count of Three, feels very in line with his other projects in that it's about 2 friends agreeing to a pact to kill each other and walks that fine line between funny and serious. Carmichael is also the star of the movie alongside Christopher Abbott. Everything I've talked about so far when it comes comes to these two have been things that I liked immensely, but both of these comedians took their artistry to the next level with their last specials. Bo Burnham's Inside is far and away the best art that came out during the pandemic. He was touching on so many topics: the billionaire Jeffrey Bezos, his own legacy on the internet, how comedy is sometimes overpraised, and why it's great satire is because he not only makes fun of the subject matter, but he also doesn't put himself above it. My favorite songs from the special are the opening song Content, 30, his song about turning 30 years old, and All Eyes on Me, where he speaks on how he was going to go back to live comedy but is now making songs alone in a room. We can talk all we want about how the special shows you in some respect how it was made, but the songs themselves are of the highest quality, and sometimes when people talk about it, I think that fact gets overlooked. Then you have Jerrod Carmichael's latest stand-up special, Nathaniel, which was the most honest he's ever been on stage, and you could say that well before he even revealed to the crowd he's gay. He's one of the last few comics who is capable of sitting on a stool, saying his truth while making it feel big and important. It just felt like what he learned as a person is that he is interesting enough to carry an entire hour of material. Here's how I would put it. In his first two specials, Jerrod Carmichael is trying to challenge the audience. In this one, he is challenging himself. Here's how Carmichael described the special, telling David Marchese of the New York Times, quote, "Nathaniel is an exercise in what if I actually told the truth? What if I actually delivered on the promise of the form? Like Jay-Z, the reason he was one of my favorite rappers is that he was honest. There was some exaggeration, but his high wire act was telling uncomfortable truths." It should be noted that Bo Burnham is the director of both Inside and Nathaniel, two of the best looking stand-up specials of all time. I mean, usually stand-up specials do not look very good visually. They are uninteresting, and I get it. They're supposed to be all about the comedian and the material, but what Bo did was make you feel like you were in the room watching these specials, even if you're watching them on your television, and that's a rare thing to see in comedy specials. You rarely watch them and go, yes, I can understand what that room must have felt like, but that's exactly how I feel every time watching Inside and Nathaniel. With both Inside and Nathaniel, there was a lot of chatter about how they are not your standard comedy specials, and that should only be thought of as a positive. Carmichael and Burnham are moving the medium of comedy forward. I don't want to watch something and think to myself, this is what all comedy specials are. I want unique voices doing what's true to them. It's admirable for these two famous comedians to continue to evolve and grow as entertainers. There's just so many comics who stay the same. I mean, one of their specials feel like all of their specials. And that's just not the case with Carmichael and Burnham. I mean, yes, their works feel connected to their past, but it also feels different. And this is not a word I use to describe a lot of comedians, but both of them are bold. And from the outside looking in, it just doesn't feel like either one of them is chasing popularity the way that so many other stand-ups are. Jerrod Carmichael's latest project was his own reality show on HBO, which has a figure in a mask that goes by anonymous that everyone thinks is Bo Burnham, who warns the comedian that the show is too honest and that audience's reaction will be negative. And if you look at these two, I would say Jerrod is revealing more and more of himself as time goes by, and Burnham is becoming an enigma. We don't even know if Bo is interested in doing comedy moving forward or being an actor or director. He's a mysterious pop culture figure. My personal belief is that Bo Burnham is somebody who wants the work to speak for itself. He is somebody who's only going to say something publicly when he has something to say. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to talk about Bo Burnham, is because I don't know what we're going to think about this figure in the next 5 to 10 years. I don't know what Bo Burnham wants to do in the next 5 to 10 years. Will he do another special? Will he direct another movie? Will he star in another movie? I mean, the possibilities are endless, but it's all going to come down to, does Bo Burnham continue to want to be a public figure? Selfishly, what I want from these two are more specials specials, and I'm willing to wait for them. Burnham could take 10 years, and I would still be pumped for material from him. One thing I definitely want to see moving forward is a movie with the two of them together. I would love a movie directed by Bo Burnham, starring Jerrod Carmichael, or vice versa. I just think these two should work together because I do think that they are two of the only comedians who are interested in actually commenting on the culture in a real way. My prediction when it comes to these two is whatever they do down the road, it is going to surprise you because that is what they have been doing up until this point. I mean, you cannot look at their career and say it's been predictable. I love that these guys act, write, and direct. I also just want them to continue to be comedians because I believe now more than ever we need comedians like Bo Burnham and Jerrod Carmichael who are not just about getting the laughs and making the easiest joke possible. I am someone who will just about laugh at anyone's stand-up special, but the ones that I rewatch are the ones that I find to be thought-provoking, and they are the ones usually made by Bo Burnham and Jerrod Carmichael. They are truly my favorite comedians outside of John Mulaney, and John Mulaney is great because he is doing stand-up comedy better than anyone. He is doing traditional jokes better than anyone. And we need that, and that's why he's my favorite. But we also need people who are breaking the convention of what stand-up comedy can be, and that's exactly what Jerrod Carmichael does and what Bo Burnham does. I also just think as great as their early specials are, they just mastered the craft. It would kind of be criminal of them to walk away now. I mean, after watching Inside on Rothaniel, all I want is more comedy specials from Bo Burnham and Jerrod Carmichael. And yes, I would describe them as comedy specials. I also want to see them do more acting. I was upset when I heard that Bo Burnham was not going to be in Winning Time. I mean, he was originally going to play Larry Bird in Adam McKay's Winning Time. I mean, a guy from Massachusetts playing Larry Bird would have been amazing. It's all I wanted to see, but sadly we never got that. But I do watch Promising Young Woman and go, Bo Burnham could be a big movie star as well. It's also wild to talk about the projects that didn't happen for Jerrod Carmichael. I mean, at one point he was going to make a Django movie with Quentin Tarantino and was going to be in a 48 Hours remake directed by the Safdie brothers. It sounds ridiculous to say this out loud, but I'm drawn to people as fans who I believe are immensely talented, like Bo Burnham, like Jerrod Carmichael. I would put Donald Glover in that same group of people. I don't care if it's the music, I don't care if it's a sitcom, I don't care if it's a television show, I don't care if it's a movie. If Donald Glover's name is on a project, I will invest my time into figuring out what that project is all about. And I feel the exact same way about Bo Burnham and Jerrod Carmichael. I don't care if in the future they make sitcoms, they make comedy specials, they make movies, whatever they make, I am going to be somebody who is interested in what that is. And there's not that many people I can say that about. There's not that many people I will follow to different mediums. I mean, I would not have watched a reality show if it had not been made by Jerrod Carmichael, but because I have an investment in that person who I believe is brilliantly talented, I was willing to watch that show. And yes, that show was really high quality. It was also really challenging at times in the best way possible. I have wanted to talk about Bo Burnham and Jerrod Carmichael on this podcast for forever because I just am always thinking about their comedy specials. I'm always watching their comedy specials. I'm always watching their shows. I'm always watching their movies. I just always am thinking about them as creative people. And it all goes back to the fact that they are creative, which is why I find them so interesting. They're not just out here selling you a product. They have big ideas. If you, like me, are interested in these two, watch their stand-up specials, watch their movies. Also, go back and listen to their podcast appearances on WTF with Mark Maron. I mean, they are amazing on that podcast. I also talked about Bo Burnham going on Pete Holmes' podcast, You Made It Weird. I mean, he is so funny on that podcast, just being himself and sounding sounding like a genius. And I don't use that word lightly. I think Bo Burnham and Jerrod Carmichael are comedic geniuses. And yes, they're really the first comedians who became famous while I was growing up. I mean, they're a big deal to me because I relate to them. I saw them grow and rise. I saw the original versions of these two comedians. And as you can tell from listening, I find their evolution to be endlessly fascinating. And I'll end on this. Comedy needs Bo Burnham and Jerrod Carmichael more than Bo Burnham and Jerrod Carmichael need comedy. Thanks for listening to this edition of Pop Culture Spotlight. I'm Cameron McKinney, and there'll be a new episode of the podcast every Thursday on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, so please rate, review, and subscribe.